and thank you for joining me again today on the Finding Hope After Loss podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. You can really help the show reach more loss and infertility families by taking a moment to leave a positive review or rating on Apple or Spotify. You can check us out on Patreon for exclusive bonus content. Just go to patreon.com/Finding Hope After Loss. You can also check out more information about the episode in the show notes at journeyforjasmine.com. Today, I am talking with Laken, the founder of Grayson's Footprints Foundation. She lost her son Grayson when he was stillborn at the beginning of the third trimester due to an issue with the placenta. She was then able to have her rainbow baby. In this episode, we talk about the importance of measuring the placenta, pregnancy loss being represented on TV, and answering the dreaded "how many kids do you have" question, along with a few other topics. Hello, everyone. Today I am here with Laken. Laken, can you tell us a little about yourself?
So my name's Laken. I am Grayson's mom. I am the founder of Grayson's Footprints Foundation. Grayson was my first baby. He was stillborn at the beginning of the third trimester due to a small placenta. And I'm 28 years old. I'm from Georgia. And me and my husband have been married for a couple years now. We just had our rainbow baby last June. So she's going to be a year old this June. And we are so excited.
Oh, wow. When's her birthday?
June 6th.
Oh, that's close to my rainbow daughter. She's June 12th.
Oh, I love that.
And I didn't realize you were in Georgia. We're in Texas now, but we lived in Georgia for almost 5 years recently and just moved back here last July.
Oh, wow. How did you like it?
I actually really liked it there. The only reason we came back was because of family. We missed our family who's all here, but I actually liked living in Georgia better.
Oh, yeah. I love Georgia.
We were like north of Atlanta in Marietta and that kind of area.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we have family there. So we're there, every now and then. I'm actually from McDonough. It's about maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes south of Atlanta.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wish I had known while we were living there.
I know we could have hung out.
I know. So what is it that made you, I mean, obviously it was your loss, but what brought you to starting Grayson's Footprints?
It's actually a really interesting story because I kind of, never thought that I would do anything with our lost story. I kind of just, was like, this is it. I hope that we have more kids someday. But for now, I'm just going to take time to grieve. But in my grieving process, I realized how we were lacking so much support and resources like within our community. And I think the biggest thing that really started the whole foundation was the cradle that we did not have at our hospital. We wanted to get in one of those. And it kind of just became, something I was like, why doesn't every hospital have one of these? And so I started it really just for the foundation to have cradles in every hospital I can get them into after our experience of not having one. And then I kind of thought, what are some other areas that I'm lacking support in? Mother's Day wasn't too far away from when I lost my son. And that was like the worst day ever, besides that actual day. It was so hard for me. And I felt like not recognized as a mom because I didn't have any living children at the time. And, it was just like this hole in my heart. So I was like, you know what, let's do Mother's Day cards. So that was another thing that we added. And we've even done like, angel pictures with Santa. So we've taken some babies' pictures and photoshopped it, in a little frame with Santa holding it, just to have something for the holidays for the moms. I'm trying to think of what else. We do care baskets and we have some volunteers that actually crochet and, knit these little blankets together and hats and everything for babies who are stillborn and, don't have any clothes or anything to wear because no one is prepared going into the hospital that, to be told that their baby has died. And so you don't have clothes and all that stuff with you. And, you want to have all that prepared for the mom. So I would say really it was just not having that device to, preserve our son. And I was like, there's so much more we could do. So why not do it?
I love everything that you're doing. I mean, even things like the Santa pictures, which is something that people may not think about, but we miss out on that and we don't get to have that picture of our baby, their like being scared and hating Santa for the first time, or, loving Santa or whatever it is. And I think it's just those little things that mean so much to us, but that other people who haven't been through it don't understand.
Right, exactly. I mean, just finding ways to incorporate them in everything. I know in the beginning, early stages of my loss, it meant so much to me just like hear someone say his name, to give me a gift with his name on it, to just bring him up in, casual conversation. That was like, it meant the world to me because it's like your child is being recognized, like that they live because they did. And so, because that meant so much to me, we also started doing like the share your stories, and it's like a free space to talk about our babies. We all feel kind of safer in this community maybe than our own personal accounts. Like I don't really think I get on my personal Instagram account anymore because I'm like, I just don't feel like I fit in there anymore. And
Hmm.
so it's a safe space to talk about our babies and our story and spread awareness and education. And yeah, it's something no one else really thinks about.
So I know you shared a little bit about your loss, but do you want to share a little more about your loss?
Oh yeah. Gosh, it basically I'll give like kind of a summarized version because I feel like it could be very much in detail. So I was actually pretty sick. I would say probably like a couple of days before I went into the hospital. But I toughed it out and went to work. I was a teacher at the time. And it was that Friday where I was like, I kind of just don't feel him like moving that much. And so I, brushed it off because no one ever thinks, that that's going to happen to them. And I kind of kept an eye on it and was waiting to feel him move and didn't. My friend had a Doppler, and I mistakenly was like, yeah, like let's bring it over. Let's see if I can, hear something. And I did everything. I like shined the flashlight and listened to music and drank juice and that kind of stuff. And I wasn't really freaking out like I should have been because, I believe the lie that babies run out of room in the third trimester and they're like descending down. So it's harder to feel them. Like, I just, every lie you can think of and myth about pregnancy, like, I believed it. And I just was not worrying like I should have been. So we did the Doppler and I couldn't really hear anything. And after I drank some juice, we found what we thought was his heartbeat and like picked up something for several seconds. I still have a recording of it. And in the recording, like me and my friend laughed, like, oh my gosh, he's fine. Like he was just messing with us. Well, later that night, still really didn't feel anything. And the next day, I felt terrible. Like my back was hurting. I was like sweating. I was like, maybe it's just, I'm hitting the fever part in my sickness. And so I just got some rest. And later that night, I was like, okay, I really don't want to go in because I actually went in before with my pregnancy maybe two other times. One was due to gallstones, and I was worried that that was affecting him. And it wasn't. Everything was good. We were cleared. And then another time was, I think, it was like 12 weeks or 13 weeks we had just hit. And I passed a very, very large blood clot, like the size of my hand. And I thought that I originally had miscarried him. So I had already thought that I lost him, one time. And when we went into that appointment, they confirmed, they're like, oh, baby's, thriving, he's fine, everything's good, strong heartbeat. Sometimes blood clots can just like dislodge somehow and come out later. And so, that was my confirmation. I was like, oh, okay. So that happened really early on too. But at this point, we were at, I think, 27 weeks. And, I was starting to kind of be like, what's going on? So I ended up going into the ER and they sent me up to labor and delivery. And that is when, they couldn't find anything. And I kind of felt like I just already knew in a way. And, they tried with the Doppler a few more times. And she said, okay, well, let me go get the doctor in here. And right when she said that, I just, it's like my soul left my body because I knew getting the doctor was not good. And she came in and confirmed, the reason that you don't hear a heartbeat is because there isn't one. I'm so sorry. labor and delivery will be in soon to explain what's going to happen next. And so that was, just, I'm sure you remember like the exact moment. It just like it kills you. Like it literally
Yeah.
is like the worst thing you can ever hear. But I was so clueless as to what happened. And, my mission was to figure out like why did my son die? I thought everything was going well. Like I wanted to get answers. And I know there's some people that, they don't want an autopsy and they don't want to dig deeper and they just kind of want to like put it in the past and move on. But I felt like I owed it to myself and my son and any future babies I had to figure out what happened with him. When he was born, the doctor said, he was smaller for his gestational age and his placenta was extremely small for his age. She was like, I can't even believe like a baby this big is, thrive this long with this placenta. And so she noticed that, just with her own eyes, no autopsy or review or anything. But I ended up getting somebody, his name is Dr. Harvey Kleiman. He's at Yale University. And he was the one that reviewed the placenta. And he was able to tell us that it just never formed properly to begin with. And like, I didn't even know that that was a thing. And just by him looking at this small little, sample of the placenta under his slot, like under a microscope, he was able to tell us all this information, like that it was a genetic abnormality type thing. And even though, my son had the autopsy, everything came back perfectly fine on him. They're like perfectly normal, healthy baby until he passed. Like everything was fine, everything was developed, like just a normal baby. But the placenta, because it had, that it's called trophoblast inclusions. And that's basically, I mean, anytime you hear that, it just means like something along the lines of it didn't form right. And because of those, that's why it just never grew with him and eventually quit giving him the proper nutrients and oxygen that he needed to survive. And so ultimately he passed away from not, getting those needs met.
Did they say that with the placenta that that's just like a fluke occurrence, or was that something that you had to worry about in any future pregnancies?
Oh yeah. So that was just a whole other issue in itself because when I got the report back, we talked to him, and in the report, the very, very bottom, it said this. I don't know if it was talking about like this mother or whatever, but basically, any other pregnancies that I would have a 50% chance of having this abnormality with the placenta again. So that obviously did not make me feel great at all. Like I was freaking out because I mean 50-50, and it's like here we are already dealing with this. Like it was so stressful to hear. And I really didn't want to try right when we lost him. I was like, I'm gonna let this be his year. I'm gonna give it a full year to try and like heal, get my life together, you know, do what you can. You never heal from it, but heal as best I can. And then we'll think about trying again. And then when I figured out I was pregnant again with my daughter, I was absolutely on the edge in the beginning.
Did they do like extra monitoring for you or anything?
Yes, so I actually ended up switching to another provider because the providers that I had before, anytime I like brought up any concern, they just made me feel so dumb. Like that I was a first time mom and I was just worried and anxious. I remember even telling because it was like I was seeing several of them at this practice. I remember telling one of them, "Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just like really nervous and really anxious." And she was like, "Oh, we know." And I'm like, y'all been
Wow,
talking about me?
like that's rude.
It like so rude. And so, I feel like that was another reason I was scared to go in and ask questions and whatever. Cause I'm like, well, they've already dismissed me and acted like everything's fine, multiple other times. So, but yeah, I ended up switching to them and I'm sorry, I got so off track. What was the last
Oh
question?
no, that's okay. I said, did you get any like extra monitoring with your pregnancy after loss?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So if I went back there, probably not. But because I switched providers to the doctor that ended up delivering Grayson, like she stepped in on rotation. She was amazing. And I actually wasn't even going to see my son because I was so heartbroken. I was like, if I do that, it's just going to hurt even more than it already does, you know? But my doctor and my nurse were like, we've been through this same thing before. We wish we would have named our babies or got to see them and hold them and take pictures. And so I was like, okay, you know, I'll do it. And of course, then you never want to let them go, right? She was just so amazing. I ended up switching to her, and she was going to make sure that I had my rainbow baby and that the outcome was going to be different. And I was able to see Atlanta Maternal Fetal Medicine and her. I think past 20 weeks, I saw Atlanta Maternal Fetal Medicine every single week.
That's so good that you were able to switch, though. I mean, I think a lot of us just kind of, because we're not, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I know a lot of us are not good at advocating for ourselves. And so then we just kind of stick around with the same doctor and just deal with that treatment because we just think that's how all doctors are.
Right. Yeah. And at that point, I'm like, I have nothing else to lose. Like
Right.
switching to another practice, like I can't afford to have that happen again. Like there's no way. And it just seemed like a total like God thing. My new doctor that I have now being there, I actually ended up naming my daughter after her. So my daughter's name is Lennon C, and her name is Dr. Tamika C. She's amazing. I'm like, she's the reason my daughter's here. Like she advocated for me. She listened, and I will forever just be so thankful for her.
Yeah, and I love being able to hear the stories of all the like all the amazing doctors because we often hear the horror stories, but we don't always hear these kind of stories.
Right. Yeah. It's always good to hear a good one because you're like, oh, after hearing so many bad, you just start to you just think, why when are they gonna start listening to women? Like why are we so ignored and dismissed all the time, you know?
I know, especially the whole, like you said, oh, they're just a first-time mom. They don't know. But yeah, I think we know our body better than anybody else. And I think we know when something doesn't feel right.
Right. Yeah. I remember literally saying, like, you know, there was one day I was on the phone with my friend and for some reason, I just got really emotional, and I'm like, I don't know what I would do if anything ever happened to this baby. Like, I already love him so much. I remember sitting in my driveway, and I just started bawling on the phone. I have no idea why. And that was like weeks before this happened. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this first time mom knew what she was talking about. Like, there was something wrong. And had he had been closely monitored, like my daughter, and had I been on that same medication, the outcome with him could have been different. But, you know, I say that he's the reason my daughter's here. Like, he saved her life, you know?
And I feel like the placenta is not something that doctors regularly check, although I don't really know why, because I don't feel like it would be that hard to just check it.
It's not. And, you know, there's so many things going on with that right now. I don't know if you've seen the Measure the Placenta group, but shout
Yeah.
out to them because they are how I got all my information. I would have never known about Dr. Harvey, never known about anything. Like, probably never would have figured out how my son died and why. So them and Anna Vick from that group, they've just been amazing. And their whole mission, I just love so much. Like, it really hits close to home. It's not something that's hard to do. And there is a manual provided so that providers know how to do it and can teach others. But so many people are just against it for some reason and think it's a waste of time, which, you know, I mean, I'm not saying stillbirth isn't common. It's more common than you think it is. But I guess they think, you know, to do it on all these people and for all these people, you know, to maybe only have like a few losses out of that. Like, I don't know if they think it's just wasting time because most people aren't going to have a stillbirth, but it matters for everyone. Like, that could be the one life saved. And they really don't know how many babies could have this, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean, of course, I'm talking about it not from a medical perspective, but from the lost parent perspective. But if it was my baby that was saved, I mean, that would, it's a life-changing thing to the people that you do save.
Exactly, yeah, to that one family. And I think there are three like main causes of like placental losses. I know one of them's genetic. There's immunolic rejection, that's like where the mom rejects the baby for some reason. And gosh, I'm like completely going blank on the other one. But I mean, it's the baby's lifeline. Like it's what keeps the baby alive. It's what gives them nutrients and oxygen. So you would think that would be something that they're closely watching to make sure it's doing its job. But no, I mean, they write letters, they do all of these, marches and meetings with Congress. And I really, really hope that they get somewhere because every medical practice needs to do it.
Yeah, and I feel like it's not something, like we already said, it's not something that takes a lot of time, and it's not something that would be that expensive to implement. I mean, can't they just do it while they're already doing an ultrasound?
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, you're already looking at baby, just scoot it over some and look
I
at the
know.
placenta. I mean, it doesn't take that much longer to just measure the baby when you're already, I mean, measure the placenta when you're already measuring the baby. And then if you were to notice, it's smaller or I don't know, some other thing, then you can proceed with those precautions like closely monitoring. Maybe you get prescribed a medicine or you get induced early, like I did with my daughter. I had her at 37 weeks because my son only made it to like 27 and some days. So I'm like, I'm already freaking out thinking like that's the latest point for me.
Did you have the same placental issue with your daughter?
I
Did you not?
actually did. Yeah, we got her placenta sent off and tested by him again, and it came back that she had the exact same thing. And that was so insane to me. Like, she made it because of all these things that we did. And I mean, it's just crazy. I'm like, how? Like, knowing that after the fact, it's just like a big breath of relief.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to think about what could have happened if you hadn't known. And
Oh,
that's what
yeah.
that's what's so frustrating is that you know, we don't know these things.
Right, yeah, there were times that they were measuring her and they would tell me, like, they knew I was gonna get upset because to me, I'm like, okay, if there's a dip in the growth when they're, growing on track and it just goes down, that's scary because what's wrong? Like, are they just gonna keep like going down like my son did? Because his placenta was less than 1 percentile, which is like incredibly small. And when I'd see stuff with her, they were like, oh, well, like she's on the right track. Sometimes, some weeks they grow and other weeks they go down. They're like, it's normal for them to kind of fluctuate. But in my mind, I'm like thinking the worst because I've been through the worst. And, it was a process, but I eventually came to a place when one of my other doctors told me that Grayson was for heaven and my daughter Lennon was for earth. And so I'm like, I'm sticking by that. I know that, God's gonna let her come and, be in this life with me. And hopefully I can use Grayson's story and spread awareness and help others.
Are there ways that you incorporate him into your family? I mean, obviously you have the foundation, but are there other like anything you do for his birthday or anything?
I do. I think the main thing with us is just talking about him a lot. And, you know, I'm sure like how you see with Jasmine, just having their name in something that you're doing, they're talked about often when you're constantly doing things for the foundation or for your website and your mission. And so that's one of the main things is the foundation. But we also, have our little teddy bear that weighs as much as him. And we include that in pictures sometimes, just for like things like my daughter's maternity pictures. I held the bear in one of those just to kind of represent like he's still a member of our family. He always will be. I have 2 children now, that kind of thing. But yeah, really just talking about him and keeping his short little life remembered. And yeah.
So I guess you do for sure plan to talk to your daughter about him when she gets older.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard when I mean, obviously she's not old enough yet, but
Yeah.
when she's
I thought
older.
about that. I don't know what or how to even bring that up one day eventually when it comes along. My husband, actually, his oldest brother was stillborn. And so my mother-in-law went through the exact same thing. And we've talked about it a lot. And I mean, it's so sad. I'm like, I even think about with my husband, it's like his brother would be like married by now with kids and, she would have more like cousins and everything. It's one of those things. It's really just crazy because it's like my daughter will consider herself the oldest, but you know, Grayson's really the oldest, and she'll have another brother or sister one day, hopefully.
Yeah, it's so many family dynamics that they're just so different for lost families than a quote regular family.
They are. It really is just a whole different world when you've experienced loss.
Did you find that there were any resources or anything in particular that helped you get through your grief?
Trying to think. I kind of just took I just day by day, really. I listened to a lot of worship music constantly, like just on replay. And that's what we did in the hospital too. I think we had the same like Lauren Daigle playlist on replay for the 3 days that we were there. I just tried to really soak it all in. I didn't want to just move past, everything that was hurting me so deeply. So I kind of just really sulked in my grief in the very beginning. Like I just let myself feel it out. And I honestly, like, my faith is completely what got me through. Like it really has been just the most helpful thing. And I mean, I'm so thankful.
That's hard too, to let yourself really sit with the grief and, let yourself actually feel it because I think myself included, the tendency is to try to stuff it down and push it away because it's uncomfortable and you don't want to have to feel it.
Right. And I don't know how many years, I guess, into losing Jasmine did you start like
Like
doing your foundation?
it was probably two years, I think, 2 or 3.
Did you ever have like ideas or, think about things like right after you lost her?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing that with me was that, I did have very supportive family and friends, but it still felt really lonely and isolating. And, the first thing that I just kept thinking is this is seriously like the worst place to ever be, and I don't want other people to have to be alone in this. And then, it just kind of built on that thought of what can I do to be there for other people going through this.
I love that. Yeah, I love that so much because we really all, especially if you've been there, I mean, you know what these moms need because you've been through it yourself. You know what resources aren't out there. What would have made you feel better? And I mean, we're just so lacking. I feel like we've done better. I've seen so many incredible organizations just through social media, not like in person. But social media has been like a really big thing because I'm sure you've seen like in your loss, you're like, I don't know anyone else who's lost a baby. I
Yeah.
don't know any grief groups around here specifically to baby loss because it's different than any other loss. And I think you just kind of, go from there. But I was the same way. I think in my early days too of losing him, another thing that really did help was kind of just like, yes, I sulked in the grief, but I also like right off the bat was like, okay, like what can I do to like help others? Like, why am I going through this? What can I like get from it? Like what, just trying to figure out, like I said, I'm very spiritual. So I'm like, what is God trying to show me or, lead me to do? And I kind of went with it from there with the cradle. That was like my main mission was to get one in there as soon as possible. Like it's really all I thought about when we left the hospital because I was just so like traumatized from everything. And I was like, there could be other people, going in the hospital today and going through the same situation. And I would say that to people like freaking out about it. And they're like, oh, well, what you went through is really rare. Like I doubt, they'll have anyone anytime soon. I'm like, it's more common than you think. Like
Yeah.
I said on my post the other day, the hospital that I had him at used the cradle that we donated over 100 times in less than a year. So, I mean, yes, people need it, and there's no telling how many people were in the same spot right after me. So, yeah, really the one of the things that I just dove into is trying to raise money for that cradle and thinking of all the future things. that I could do and, you know, get busy once I was ready mentally in a place to get busy and start pouring my time and effort and ideas and stuff into that.
And I know for me, just helping other people has also helped me heal. Is that how it's been for you?
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, we didn't have like a cuddle cot or anything like that at our hospital either, but we ended up donating one. And at one point, we went back to the hospital with one of the people who works for the cuddle cot company. And I remember asking the nurse, like, has it been used? And she said, yeah, it has. And that moment where you're like, oh, I'm so grateful that it helped somebody, but at the same time, you're like, I wish nobody ever had to use it.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, ugh, I hate it because it's like you know that hurt, you know that pain. You know it never leaves, it does change. But just to hear and someone tell you, like, oh yeah, that device you brought in the other day, someone's already used it. And it's like I just brought it in, like
Yeah.
but you hope it, you pray, this very expensive item that you spent so much time getting and other people may not understand or be like, what's the point, but it's like you finally get it in there and you're like, I hope it never has to be used. It's like, thank you all for helping us make this happen, but I hope no one ever has to use it. I hope it sits in the closet and collects dust.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
if there is a chance that someone has to use it, I hope that it brings like just so much comfort into an already horrible situation. I hope it brings so much healing. And, I felt like that made, I guess, our stay at the hospital like so much harder. It's just like the trauma of like, just watching your baby who was born, like they should be, like, that looked normal, like, and you know what I'm trying to say. I don't really
Yeah,
know how to word it. But just watching your baby deteriorate is so much worse,
it
you
is.
know? It just makes things so much harder because you're trying to take all the pictures and make all the memories that you'll only have with them ever. And then it's like just traumatizing seeing that, and it hurts you even more. Like, oh my gosh, like life is just so fragile, and I'm just sitting here with my baby who's passed and seeing them in this condition. It's not natural.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not something I ever thought that I would be doing.
Yeah, it's so incredibly hard, but I mean, we don't have a choice and we do what we can, and ugh, it's just thinking about it all over again is just so crazy.
I feel like sometimes I can just like something will trigger me and I go right back to those moments and I feel like they're just like ingrained in my brain, like moments I'll never forget ever.
Right, like it really is PTSD. It's like it takes you back in a time machine. You just like you're standing in
Yeah.
the hospital again, or you're being told there's no heartbeat, or giving birth, or whatever it is. Like it is PTSD that is so very much a real thing. Like people just don't even understand like how I don't know, a song or a comment or something random can just like trigger that and take you back to that exact moment. And it's like living your worst nightmare all over again.
It is. And it's so like for me anyways, it's so like vivid. Like I can remember the smells, I can remember the feeling, I can remember like all of it.
It's so crazy how we like all, can relate to that, like we've all felt that. Like it's just a universal thing for all lost moms that we know what we're talking about when we say that it's triggering. Like I know a lot of people are like, they hate the word because there's some people that think like everything's triggering or whatever, but it really is.
It is. I mean, I wish people would be more understanding of that. I mean, I get it. Like, it is frustrating when you feel like everything has to have a trigger for something, but I think they're important. And I try to not let, because I have the things that bother me. So I try to just respect what bothers other people.
It really does give you a whole new outlook on life. I mean, I was really sensitive before this happened, but now I'm even more sensitive to other people's feelings and emotions and, just empathetic because you're just like, I don't know, it just really softens your heart in a way that nothing else ever could.
It does. Like now I feel like I'm even more sensitive to like, oh, I can tell that's bothering somebody, or I can let's change the subject or let's steer the conversation this way. Whereas before maybe I wouldn't have noticed it. But yeah, I agree. I've definitely changed as well.
Yeah, and even I feel like with grief, like just anyone, like losing a parent, a friend, a spouse, like I feel like I've shown up a lot more and seen grief a lot differently because I've realized, how I mean, I was treated amazing, but yeah, there were some, situations or people that hurt me or thought that I would be there for me that I really needed that weren't there. But now I'm like, if someone in my life is experiencing that, I'm like, okay, what helped me? And, what needs did I need? And what are things to say and what not to say? And like, what's helpful and what's hurtful?
Does it bother you like when you see, because I feel like on TV and in movies and stuff, they've been portraying loss more often. Does it bother you to see that kind of stuff, or do you like that they're showing it more?
Are you talking about specifically like to infant loss or just like
Well, just
any
any
kind of
kind of like pregnancy loss. I've seen more stillbirth, I've seen more miscarriage, just in general.
part of me actually kind of it does hurt to see because you're like, oh, I sympathize with that character so much, I've been there. But it does make me feel more represented. I don't know if that sounds like stupid, but it's like it is something that needs to be talked about. So I'm glad that, they're showing it and they're talking about it because it's more common than you think. You may not know someone because there's some people that don't ever tell anyone about their loss. There's people that could be around you every day that have suffered through a miscarriage or something and not told anyone. And just it, portraying that situation, whether it's stillbirth or miscarriage. I
Yeah.
feel like it can be educational for others or for others to see, like, even sometimes like the process of it, depending on what show or movie. But yeah, I think it's helpful. It's hard to see, but I think in a way everyone should see it.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I like to be prepared for it. I don't like to be caught off guard. If I know it's coming, then I'm more prepared to handle it.
Yeah, there's several off the top of my head I can think of. I think Yellowstone had one, and American Horror Story, I know definitely had an episode with that. I'm trying to think what else, but yeah, there's been times throughout my loss that I've seen it, and I just look at that scene, so much differently, and obviously just really resonate with it. So
Yeah, no, I agree. We were watching The Pit, and it's like a medical show. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there was a miscarriage that happened in there. And before it was coming, or before it happened, I told my husband, I was like, she's gonna miscarry. Like I can tell that's where they're going with this. Like I feel like w once you've been through it, like you can kind of recognize that it's going in that direction.
yeah, I can definitely see that. Yeah.
So I know that one of the questions that we don't like as lost parents a lot is the how many kids do you have question. So how do you typically answer that?
So I'm thinking of all the ways I've answered it before.
I know it's not
And
always the same for every situation.
yeah, I pretty much have answered it the same way every time. I may have went back and changed my answer after feeling bad, I think one time ever. But for the most part, it doesn't matter if it's a stranger in the grocery store or someone I work with that doesn't know me well or, whatever. If someone asks that question, I just straight up, and it probably makes them so uncomfortable. I really do feel bad, but I'm not saying women who, don't say like, oh, I have a son or a daughter, but they died. I'm not saying like, you know, that that's bad. Just for me personally, because I know there's a time and a place, and some people don't want to share with strangers or, just feel awkward in a small conversations, they just brush it off or say that they only have one or none. But for me, I always say, well, I have two, but my first son was stillborn in 2022, and now I have my rainbow baby. And that's just how I ended it every single time. I think there was one time ever where I was like I have one, and I was like, but that's because my son, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I probably made them feel so awkward. But I'm like smiling and fine when I say it, like I'm not like crying or anything, but and I'm not saying like people who don't like deny their baby's existence, but like in my head, I'm like, I mean, when they're asking me, I'm gonna tell them, and they may not like the answer. I don't like the answer either, but it's the truth.
I know it's like, okay, they're uncomfortable for a moment, but we're uncomfortable for a lifetime. So I think they
Yeah,
can be
our
okay.
whole lives, so they'll be fine. They'll get over it. They may not ever ask anyone that again, but you know,
Maybe we should just not ask that in general, huh? No.
yeah. I've caught myself doing it, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, why did I do that? I know that question can be uncomfortable." So, like I said, you just think of stuff so differently.
You do. And it's one of those things that it's kind of like you're on autopilot when you ask those things like, oh, how are you today? How many kids you have? What do you do for a living? Those kind of things. We just don't think about them. We just say them. And then, yeah, same as you. I'm like, oh, no, why did I say that?
Yeah, sometimes they just look at you and they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and you're like, "No, I'm fine." Like, I mean, like, what else is there to say? But there's been so many times, like you won't believe, where someone has shared with me that they've also lost a baby, and I had no idea. Like, and it's completely changed the conversation or me and that person's relationship. Not like random interactions out in public, but maybe like an acquaintance or somebody from work or like a new person in my life, like that kind of thing.
And then, yeah, I feel like you're able to then form, that stronger bonds that lost parents have with each other.
Yeah, you really are. I mean, even if they're different losses, because I've had some people, say, "Oh, I've had a miscarriage," and it's like, "Well, you still lost your baby," or I've had some people say, "Oh gosh," like some lady said to me one time that she lost her 2-year-old daughter to SIDS, and I just, like, that's a totally different loss too. I think anyone that has lost a child, we can all just resonate with each other, period.
Yeah, definitely. I think it doesn't matter how far along you are, that there's always grief that comes with it. And even if, yeah, I mean, even two stillbirths aren't exactly the same experience and two miscarriages aren't the same, but I think we all still know how each other is feeling.
Yeah, and we've probably all, been treated the same at some point. We've probably all had awkward conversations or some mental health issues at some point in time, or gosh, just the long list of what comes with losing your child. All of us have been through some of the same stuff on that list.
Yeah, and I feel like that list is long. All the ways that you change after going through loss.
Oh, yeah. It's a never ending one.
Yeah, I know it. I feel like we're 7 years from our loss, and I still feel like I find like new ways that I've changed.
Right, right. And then it's like 7 years, and then my son, I think, yeah, my son was just 3 years. I don't know why to think about that. His birthday was literally last week. Sorry, I'm going off of like very minimal hours of sleep because my daughter's teething
Oh, no, no, I understand.
and
Sometimes, and sometimes even though like it just happened, it's hard. You're like, what day is today? What? I mean, I get
right.
it.
So I'm like delusional right now. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things, and it's even though it's been 3 years, I'm sure just like for you, sometimes you're like, you feel like it's been ages, but then other times you're like, wasn't that just yesterday?
Yeah, it's so weird how that happened. Yeah, sometimes I'm like, it's been 7 years, and sometimes I'm like, it's only been 7 years. I feel like it was like 10 years ago, or it just sometimes time seems to go so slowly, but other times it's so quick.
I know I hated that in the beginning too, because when I got home from the hospital, those first few days that you're in your home. Well, I wasn't in my parents' home, or in my home. I was in my parents' home because I don't even know why I was in their home really. We lived next to them at the time, and It just felt better like being with family. And instead of like being over there, I have like a phobia of my own house for some reason, which is so weird to think about because it's like I was weird about my house because I was like, oh my gosh, like my son probably died over there. Like that's where I spent all my time. Like when he died, I was probably there. And then I'm like, he literally died in my stomach. Like you can't escape that. Like, it's
Yeah.
not funny, but I'm like, it's just a weird thought. Like you're like, I'm like trapped. I don't know. I've heard other moms talk about it and they word it better, but sometimes it just really, I don't know, freaks you out. But in the very early stages of that, I was just having like, oh my gosh, so many different thoughts. I know like you can probably relate to just in the very beginning, you feel like you're losing your mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's so many different emotions all at once, and you're trying to be like the version of yourself that you were before. Like we try to act like, okay, this person, I went to the hospital to have a baby, but my baby died, and now I'm going to come out and be the same person. And that's like we just talked about, like that's not how it works. But that's what I felt like it was a struggle between trying to deal with my grief and all the things that were coming, and then trying to be that normal version of myself.
Yeah, I eventually had to just kind of come to terms with the fact that I was never going to be myself again. And I kind of loved it because at the same time, I'm like, my son existed. He was born. He changed my life. He has that impact. And part of me is like, I would never want to go back to the person that I was before he was here because he did change me for the better. Of course, I wish he were here. Like I can say all the good things that him, passing away has done, but and how it's like helped other people and you know, the list goes on, but it's just one of those things where I'm like, he changed me from the inside out. Like I am a better person. Like I'm a much different person. I'm a stronger person. And that is all because of him. And it wasn't his purpose to die, but I think we can all bring purpose, from our baby's death. It's not their purpose to just die and, that's a wrap. That's it. All of them impact somebody in some way, and all of them do have a purpose.
Oh, is there anything else that you'd like to share or add?
I'm trying to think. I don't know. I mean, not anything I can think of off the top of my head other than, if anyone's interested in resources and, needs assistance. And one of the ways that we provide, our foundation page is just Grayson's Footprints Foundation on Instagram. We don't have a website or anything, but on our Instagram page is pretty much where everything takes place as far as sharing stories, helping moms in need that are in like the early days of loss. And you can always message us to find out more information. And yeah, I enjoyed talking with you though. Like, I seriously, I'm so thankful that you had me on.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story.
Of course. Yeah. I look forward to talking with you soon. And just know, like, you have also changed my life in such a big way too. Like, you were one of the first accounts I think that I had followed in my early days of loss, and so I just appreciate everything that you were doing. I just think it's beautiful.
Oh, that means so much to me to hear. I love hearing when stuff has an impact on people. Because yeah, that's both of our goal, right? Just help as many people as we can.
Right? No, it is, and I mean, I've really never seen anybody do what you're doing. And I just think it's the coolest idea. I even was telling my mom right before I got on, I was like telling her all about what you do. And I'm like, it's so cool. Like she has this skirt and it goes all around and all these like, stories of loss and rainbow babies are shared. It's just like the greatest idea. And so, Jasmine will never be forgotten and she's so beautiful and she has touched my life. So what you're doing is just incredible.
You're gonna make me cry over here. Thank you so much, Laken, for sharing your story with us. Laken wanted to make sure that everyone knows about all of the amazing things that Grayson's Footprints does as an organization. As she talked about in the episode, They do donate the cooling cradles and keepsake baskets to hospitals. They also do Mother's Day cards and help with burial, cremation, and memorial expenses. You can check out everything they do on her Instagram at Grayson's Footprints Foundation. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. If you like the show, please take a moment to leave a positive review or rating on Apple or Spotify. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember, we are all in this together.